What's up guys, this is Miasin and welcome to the OCG metagame breakdown number 4 and 5. So this is the very first one that is post-Supreme Darkness. So in other words, we have Twins of the Eclipse, we have the new Shark, Speedroid, Crystron, Tenny, Atlantean, whatever support. There's a lot of rogue decks that are getting a huge boost in Supreme Darkness, but it doesn't really matter too much because the OCG, obviously, they're gonna try their hardest to play the better decks and make them even better. And Raziel did get a little bit of a boost with Twins of the Eclipse, which is probably the card that matters the most. And there's also the new Molchimi monster, the Nyalis. I did make a video on it, I believe yesterday or the day before, and I made a full review in depth on how it is really good against like the top tier decks, and I really recommend you check it out. But yeah, before we go any further in this video, you already know the drill, smash the like and subscribe button, and let's get right into it. Alright, so this breakdown is a compilation of 219 decks from 40 tournaments, so it's not too bad. Definitely a decent sample size. Usually it's around like 200 whatever something. Yeah, this was 182, and then before that 224. So yeah, this is a little more than that, and also actually no, never mind, 219. And I think this does include YCS Japan Osaka. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no, that was on November 4th, and this is until November 3rd. So yeah, it's pre-YCS Japan, but at the same time, that's the best out of one, so it's not that representative. And by the way, even though the YCS was won by Raziel, Raziel made an illegal move by summoning Detonator using a Raziel monster and a Molchimi monster, and Detonator can only be summoned using 2 Raziel monsters. So in other words, that play would have obviously not worked, so he would have had to make like another rank 4, and no other rank 4 in that situation would have been enough to actually win against Labyrinth. So in reality, if the game state was actually maintained correctly and legally by the judges, Labyrinth would have won that game, so therefore Labyrinth would have won the YCS. Anyway, speaking of Raziel, it's really weird to see it at only 36.1% in here, but I don't think it's that representative because again, that is a pre-YCS Osaka, and in here I counted 56% representation rate in the top 16 from Raziel. A lot of Raziels, a lot of different builds with Raziel cards in them. I guess if you take away like the Raziel Voices voice, then I believe it should still be 8 out of 16, so 1. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Raziel Magistus is still a Raziel deck featuring a very small Magistus engine, whereas Raziel Voices voice is Voices voice featuring a very small Raziel engine. So yeah, it would still be 8 out of 16, which translates to 50% representation rate. So yeah, 50 to 36.1, or rather 36.1 to 50%. I don't really know if you can really consider this like an upgrade or a downgrade compared to last time, where we had, let's see, hold on a second, we had like 44? Yeah, 44.3%, and then before that we had 40.6%. So yeah, don't go thinking that Raziel is getting less good. That is not really the case. As a matter of fact, I think that people are playing Raziel even more now. It's just that there's also a lot of interesting other decks that people are testing out on the new set release. So usually I don't really pay too much attention to when a set just comes out because people are obviously going to be on their experimental phase. But yeah, almost every single Raziel build is just a pure build, 75 out of 79, and only 4 players were going for like innovative builds. So Magistus Raziel, that was from YCS Osaka, and then Mathmech Raziel, I really don't see the synergy at all. You're locked under like Cybers only when you summon your Mathmechs. Trickstar Raziel and Zodiac Raziel, I again really don't see the synergy like at all. It really just doesn't make any sense, but whatever. You might as well, I think out of all these ones, the Magistus build is probably like the less weird one, but it's still not great. You might as well play pure Raziel. It's just too complicated for no good reason. It's just a 1-card combo that makes a rank 4 and that searches a Magistus monster for follow-up, but that's about all it does. Anyways, Malice, almost every single build is playing just pure Malice, and one of them is playing with the Lubellion engine and potentially Regained, whereas this one is still playing Bestials. I mean, the 24 out of 25, they're still playing the Bestial like Magnamut, Juizworm, and Baldric, but no Lubellion, so that's the difference between Bestial and non-Bestial Malice, because that doesn't mean that the Malice builds are not playing Bestial monsters. Voices voice, 15 out of 20 are playing regular Voices voice, and 4 are playing with the Raziel engine, 1 with the Azamina, and 0 with Ryugi, or Apogeosis, which is the rank 10 engine that is coming out in Crossover Breakers, the same set that is introducing Raziel and Malice. Ryugi cards are ass cheeks, like really, really bad. Most of them are Garnets, they're terrible to draw, and there's only like 2 starters in them. And if you, I mean, obviously you can get to like the engine using the Skull Guardian search, but apart from that, it's just really bad. It makes your going second completely abysmal. I do not recommend, but the Raziel build in Voices voice is super interesting, and we will be covering it in this video. And there's a very good reason, by the way, why Voice's Voice is doing well in the OCG. It's because it can easily adapt itself to like a slower playstyle. It is a mid-range deck, and again, I've already mentioned this in the past. When we are in a mid-range format, which is defined by how good the best deck is, if the best deck is a mid-range deck, then obviously everybody has to adapt their playstyle to the best deck, because that is the deck to beat. Raziel is the #1 deck to beat right now in the OCG. Then everybody else will slow down. But Voice's Voice is not a deck that has to slow down. It is already slow enough to the point where it can keep up with Raziel and Malice, etc. Because it can play those hand traps, and going first, it doesn't really lose to hand traps too much. It loses harder to board breakers. So I think Voice's Voice is in a very good position. Granted that people are not playing board breaker Raziel, then you're screwed. And then Malice is a better deck. So that's the reason why Malice is doing well. It's because if people are playing board breaker Raziel, then Malice doesn't lose to that. But if people play a bunch of hand traps in Raziel, like the very standard build, then Malice will have a tough time against that, which is the reason why Malice, even though it's a deck that can play like 17 on engine, or like more than that, sometimes they just play like Cross Out and Call by the Grave in their deck with a couple of hand traps, but less than we would in the TCG, because in the TCG you would see like freaking 20 plus hand traps potentially, with 0 called by, 0 cross out, none of that. After that we've got Tenpai Dragon with 1 Chandra, by the way, it's still very good. I think even if you ban Chandra, the deck is still good, honestly. But whatever. Memento, yeah, okay, very good deck. It does lose super hard to the new Molchimi monster, but it's irrelevant because nobody's really playing it. You will see, like, literally nobody's even considering it. As a matter of fact, even Parolia is no longer being played. Anyway, Snake Eye, the majority are playing Fiendsmith Azamina, and then we're also seeing Fiendsmith White Forest Azamina Snake Eye. So the White Forest engine is super interesting. I have also made a video on that, but I will be making a combo video on deck profile very soon. I do have the combos already figured out. I just have to like film and edit the video and everything and then put it on YouTube. It's a deck that can easily bridge into like your White Forest engine using like Sprite Sprint, you send your Stellar, and then you go like Oak, send the Temple, summon Flamberge, and then trigger back the Stellar, send special summon the Sylvie, etc. It does a lot of really cool things. The lore is just really nice on like the Snake Eyes, the White Forest, the Azamina, everything is like interconnected. So there's like infinite 1-card combos on the deck. So even with like 1 Wanted, 1 Bonfire, 1 Snake Eye Ash, and 1 Diabell Star, you still have like 15 starters. It's absolutely beautiful to play, but it's really complicated as well because, you know, sometimes you look at a hand of like Snake Eye Ash, Sylvie, with like Diabell Star, Deception, and you're like, bro, how do I play this one out? And most people are just not trying to have a headache, so they're just playing Fiendsmith as Azamina Snake Eye, which is super boring, super standard, but they do have Appaloosa, so I guess that must make sense if they can beat Nibiru that way or whatever. Nobody's playing Nibiru, but whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. Blue Eyes, very cool deck. Most builds are playing the Primite engine, which I find to be super interesting. It's a good engine. It doesn't suck at all. I don't think that the new cards from Supreme Darkness really change anything. It's really just 1 monster, Primite, another barrel. That card can set your Lordly Load, and then you can tribute it, and then send a normal monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then you can flip the Lordly Load, search your Roar, and then activate that, special summon Blue Eyes Red Dragon from the deck. And then you can go Lordly Lord effect, revive back your, I don't know, it's Blue Eyes from the graveyard, and then you can make a rank 8 and pass turn because you can't use any special summon effect monsters for the rest of the turn after you use like that effect of Lordly Load. I don't know. I don't really think the Primate engine is a must in Blue Eyes. I think the deck is good even without it. Now, it's cool to see Blue Eyes back to being, you know, a competitive deck. You know, it's in the top 10 best decks, so I will definitely say that it's tier 1 to some degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 7th best deck, tied with like 5 other decks or something. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Centurion, obviously, it's good for the same reason as why Voice's Voice is good. Labyrinth, again, same thing. Labyrinth technically won YCS Osaka. White Forest, I don't understand how White Forest can really be here when in reality it should be here. I'm very confused, or the other way around. Whatever. Alon Moing Despia, Fiendsmith Goblin Biker. The 3 Fiendsmith Goblin Bikers were literally the exact same team in a 3v3, same deck list, card for card. If I can find it, I'll show you. I don't know if I have it here. Hold on a second. It might have been this, actually. Yeah, there you go. This guy on the left, you probably recognize him. He got 4th place, I believe, at the Worlds this year with Far King Snake Eyes. Very interesting build. He also played like some Kashtira cards with like set rotation and stuff. And every single one of his teammates and himself, they play the exact same list card for card. And it's a very good deck into Raziel, but it's kind of like a one-trick pony. it's a deck that, even though it was able to do like very well at that event, because obviously they won the whole thing, you know, like the whole team, it's not the kind of thing that the Goblin Biker deck can really do anymore. So unfortunately, it kind of phased out, and that success is not being replicated. Anyway, Sky Striker, shoutouts to Ryan Yu. Atlantean Mermail, I don't think that the new support really matters too much. It's really just like one of, and the rest is just a bunch of zero ofs. By the way, Mermail spreadsheet video coming up real soon, so stay tuned. It's a really good one. You will not be disappointed. If you plan on playing Mermail, you need to be on the lookout for my spreadsheet video. It's like 10 combos where I beat every hand shop that you can think of, like Ash, Drool, Shifter, Nibiru. If the opponent doesn't have Nibiru, you can make an even bigger board. It's really nice. Anyways, Azamina Chimera, and then Crystron, Dragon Link, Unchained, Ritual Beast, Tachyon, Yubel, Fire King, Blackwing, Dinomorphia, Manado, Magical Musket, Sciroclaw, Sprite, Horus Naturia, Ice Barrier, Runic, Rika, Magispector, Traptrix, Raziel, Zodiac. Yeah, no, this should be up here, so it should be 80. Not that it matters, but whatever, you get what I'm trying to say. What is interesting about Raziel is the fact that they have inherent answers to just about everything. Like, if you want to Book of Eclipse me, I can chain my Detonator and then destroy myself, and then I can use the plugin, this card right here, the Monster Reborn, revive back my Detonator, and then I still have 2 pops through your Book of Eclipse, or your Change of Heart, or your Mind Control, whatever. So monster stealing cards are not the best. However, cards like Ultimate Slayer, where you can't respond, are very good, and also Metal Chonius is very good, and I'm not seeing any Metal Chonius in the OCG, which I find to be interesting, but I guess it's because it's more niche. Ultimate Slayer is more generic. You can use it against more decks, although, like, the probability of, like, facing the Raziel deck is so high, and also when you only play 15 Xyz with Ultimate Slayer, bro, you might as well. You actually might as well. And also, I don't know if you guys realized, this deck gets demolished if you give them an Ibli. So the only out that they have to Ibli, especially when they're not playing the Donner Dagger for higher, would be Forbidden Droplet. That's it. It's literally the only one that I can think of. But yeah, also, by the way, even without plugin, you can still out a Book of Eclipse or whatever just by having Twins of the Eclipse. So you go X-Raziel, send Twins of the Eclipse, then you rank 4 monster, this card right here, and then you make your combo, whatever, you end on the Duo Drive, the what's-his-face, the Detonator, and then the Field Spell, and then you can also search the whole thruster instead of the plugin. Your opponent goes Book of Eclipse, you destroy yourself with the Detonator, and then the Twins of the Eclipse is going to the graveyard, and then you go Twins of the Eclipse effect, revive back Detonator, and then attach another rank 4 to it, and then on the summon, your Detonator is going to be reattaching back the Twins of the Eclipse, and it's kind of like an infinite loop where you never run out of gas. This card is so incredibly good that even in the OCG, they started playing 2 of them. As a matter of fact, even Mirror Logic Aggregator, which is a card that you cannot even Xyz summon, is still seeing play as a 2 of. Let that sink in. Like, almost half of the extra deck you can't even summon, or you will never summon. Like the reveal targets for your 7 Tachyon, which, by the way, in this deck list, I'm only seeing 1, and it can only search X and Ice, which obviously makes a lot of sense. I think the Fire one is shit, because you never want to search, like, Thode and Node, but yeah, it's very interesting. No Archfiend Seraph, so you cannot search your Artifact Lancia, which is extremely interesting. And also, this build is not playing the classic Artifact Scythe and Artifact Sanctum combo, which again, at least you will be able to say that, you know, the TCG is not going to be relevant at all. The extra deck is kind of tight. I think this card, by the way, is like Star Liege something. It's like Detach 2, Draw 1, if I recall correctly. Star Liege, Photon Blast Dragon. I do not think that's the one that draws 1. Hold on a second. If this card is in, you can once per turn, you can detach. Your opponent cannot target monsters you control with 2,000 or more attack with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Okay, yeah, the goal is to like protect your Detonator while you have this. It's actually not too bad, but it has 3 effects and only one of them is relevant. The continuous effects. That's actually hilarious. Yeah, because you don't play any Galaxy Ice cards in your deck, of course. And Dugaris is actually a very interesting card in this deck. You can use it to double the attack of one of your monsters. So if you play like Gagaga Samurai, any 1-card combo is an OTK against your opponent. So instead of like playing your deck super slow, you can kill your opponent. And if you have like Dugaris and like something like Twins of the Eclipse or something that has a lot of attack or can attack multiple times, then that's double damage and double attack. But Twins of the Eclipse can only make a second attack on monsters. It's not like attack directly, whereas Gagaga Samurai can. So that's the reason why I think that Gagaga Samurai might actually be a nice consideration in the extra deck. I don't understand why the OCG is not playing it at all. I think it's a great card. And the extra deck is a very, sorry, the side deck is a very TCG style side deck. A lot of, cards that you would expect the TCG players to play. And again, no way to search that Artifact Lancia. So if you're going first against Malice, you're pretty much trying to draw it. You can't search it. Anyways, moving forward, we got the Malice deck, and it didn't really change too much since Supreme Darkness, but we did get this new card right here, the Template Skipper. This is, I guess, the counterpart to Format Skipper, and it has a very similar effect, but it's actually a little worse in a way. I don't really like it too much. So you can, I think, special summon it from your hand to a zone a Cyber Link monster points to. So you can go normal summon like a Shishira Cat, for example, if your hand is garbage, and then you make a Lingerable or a Link Decoder, and then you special summon that Format Skipper, and then you use its effect, so you banish the Shishira Cat from the graveyard, and then Format Skipper becomes the name of the monster that you banished, for, like, if it's treated as a Link summon, like Link material this turn. So you can summon, like, your Hearts of Cryptor, or your Red Ransom, or your White Binder, using technically no real, I was gonna say White Forest, the Malice monsters, but realistically, this doesn't really do that much, and it doesn't do anything else. It doesn't search anything when it's used as a Link material. So honestly, I think it's, like, absolutely nothing compared to Twins of the Eclipse. This deck also has, like, issues with Nibiru, which is the reason why Nibiru is seeing a lot of play in the OCG. And Appaloosa is, like, your best friend in the OCG, but in the TCG, that's not going to be the case. I think Malice players are just going to be extremely disappointed by how weak this deck is, not only going second into boards, but also going into Nibiru. Because if you don't get it by Nibiru, this deck is probably, like, the strongest deck going first. But if you get a hand shoved by the cards that destroy you, you are completely screwed. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool deck. There's a lot of nice things that you can do. Obviously, it's a very resourceful deck. It's not a solved deck. It's very complicated to deck build. I don't understand how people can look at this and be like, yeah, very easy, very simple. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. Absolutely not. It's the kind of deck that in the TCG, most likely people are going to be playing it completely different from this, especially considering the fact that we have 3 Lubellion. So maybe we will play like the full Bestial package. 3 Lubellion, maybe multiple Baldrix, multiple Druisworm, the Regained, etc. And we're not even going to be seeing the Allure of Darkness, the Call by the Grave, the Crossouts. And we also only have 1 Gold Sarcophagus. So even our, like, consistency cards in a way are different. We don't have Max C. I don't know. It's not the kind of deck list that I look at and I'm going to be like, yeah, that's set in stones. Absolutely not. And yeah, the extra deck, again, a lot of similar cards for everyone, right? 3 Lancia, 3 D-Bearer, 3 Ultimate Slayer, and that Duster. So it's like always 10 cards by default that everybody shares. Because in this list, it's the same thing. Lancia, D-Barrier, Ultimate Slayer, Duster, etc. Same exact thing. Voice is Voice Now is probably one of the most interesting decks in this breakdown. So there are a couple of things that should be mentioned here. The first one is the inclusion of Nadir Servant. It's not my first time seeing this, not only in the OCG, but also in the TCG. This card is good going first and second. Going first, you're going to be sending your Garura, and then you search your Maximus, you draw a card, and then you summon the Maximus, banish the Garura, and then you're going to be using its effects, so that is going to be sending Herald of Arclight, and if there's something else that you can send, like the Tri Brigade linked to monster, where you can draw a card and then put back another card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. So if you draw your shit cards, like your what's his face, is that, no, not Saphira, Jesus, Soravis, the bad Soravis, the main deck Soravis, and then Trias Hierarcha or your Molchemy is going first. You just get rid of them, it's fine completely. And if you're going second, you break boards because you can send your Golden Cloud Beast Malong, your Elder Entity Entis, and also this deck is very, 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 very good at playing Ultimate Slayer because you play a Synchro, a Fusion, an Xyz, and a Link monster that you can all send with Ultimate Slayer. So I do not understand why the side deck is not playing Ultimate Slayer, and I do not understand why you're not even committing to playing... Oh, actually, I understand why he's not committing to Dominus Purge in the main deck because Thode Raziel is a fire monster, so you don't really want too much conflicting. That does make sense. And also, honestly, it's not even that great. Dominus Impulse is like miles ahead. And I don't know if you realized, but yeah, no, actually I did mention it anyways, but the Raziel engine in this deck, I mean, it's relatively spicy. There is 4 monsters only in the main deck. You don't have to do any more than that. And X Raziel is another one of your board breakers going second because you're going to be summoning it, you send your aggregator, you negate something in the process, and then you use its effect. If you get hit by an Imperm, then good for you, because you baited an Imperm, and you negated something with only 1 card, and you didn't have to commit your normal summon, so you can just go normal summon Novox, normal summon Diviner, and then you pop off from there. Or if you don't get negated, then you just search your Thode, and then special summon Thode, search another X, and then you make a Detonator, and then you start breaking the board as if it was nothing. And also, it doesn't clash too much with, like, Nadir Servant. You just start with this, and then you go Nadir Servant, and then even if you can't summon from the extra deck, it doesn't matter, because you're playing a ritual deck, so you don't care. And if you get hit by Dimensional Barrier, then what is your opponent calling with D-Barrier? Is he calling Xyz? Is he calling a Ritual? Regardless, you have a way to play. So I think that this deck is very nice. I think it's the kind of hybrid deck that I would be interested in playing, even though like most people, they don't really like hybrid decks too much. They want to play a pure build, but I think this one does it very well. It doesn't play too many normal summons because, again, you don't have to normal summon your X-Rays. It's just a free special summon, which is beautiful. And yeah, you can just keep your normal summon for the good cards. And the only normal summon that you add would be the Thode in case you draw it, but it's not really the end of the world. And yeah, I think we're seeing the exact same amount of Voice starters that we would in usual decks, but we're not seeing like pre-prep, we're not seeing any pod cards, no extravagance, no prosperity. That makes sense. Your extra deck really matters for once. You're going through almost half of these cards sometimes when you're using the effects of like your Nadir Servant, your X-Rays, etc. Because obviously you're going to be sending your Herald of Arclight, your Garura, your Aggregator, you're going to be summoning that Detonator. Summoning Typhon is something that comes up very, very often in the Malice deck. And obviously the most relevant card in the extra deck, the MVP, is Dynamundo. This card is incredible. And apart from that, yeah, it's a beautiful deck list. I love it. I think Voice is in a good position. I think it's a good deck. I think it's a good meta call overall. So if you want to play Voice moving forward, I think it's a good investment. But it's not the kind of thing that I could see like winning a YCS out of nowhere. But it's a good deck to top. It's just not a good deck to win. And yeah, in conclusion, Supreme Darkness apparently didn't change too much. Abao Ashu, the Lightless Shadow, is a Link 4 Dark Fiend monster, I think. And it is very good in Fiend-based strategies, but the issue is that the Fiend decks in the OCG are not the best. And Yubel got nerfed to death, so it's just not the best option. And here it is mentioned that the guy that got 4th place at the Worlds, he played the Goblin Biker deck with his team, and they did really well. The issue is that the Goblin Biker deck is just not a very good deck overall. It doesn't really win too much against the other decks. It's just a one-trick pony against the Raziel deck. Because the Goblin Biker, their gimmick is that they detach materials from the Xyz monsters on the field to like special summon themselves. And you can detach material from any Xyz monster on the field, even your opponent's Xyz monsters. But yeah, it has a lot of issues. I'm not a big fan of Goblin Biker. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the deck. I think it's a super cool, super fun deck. But I don't think that it's a deck that will really be like a threat next format, especially since we, you know, us the TCG players, we know that that deck is now like a semi-meta call in the OCG. It's not gonna work. The surprise factor is not gonna be a thing. If you handtrap the Goblin Biker deck correctly, it's not that great. If you know how to stop them, because, bro, they don't have a lot of extenders. They really don't, unless you build it a certain way. But if you look, for example, at the deck list that they were playing here, I don't even know, what's his name again? Yeah, no, I can't read anything, but whatever, the guy that got 4th place, he's the GOAT. Yeah, you see, all the Goblin Biker monsters, if there is no Xyz monster on the field, they do nothing in your hand, unfortunately. Like, you can go normal summon Badass Goblin Biker, or normal summon the Dark Charger, or the one that summons from the hand, and then if you get impermed, then every single other Goblin Biker monster does nothing. So if you get impermed, then you really have to rely on, like, the quick play spell, otherwise, again, you can't do anything. The normal spell card is not an extender if you don't have an Xyz monster on the field, yet again. So you could have, like, maybe too many normal summons sometimes, which is very annoying. Like, one single imperm can really be, like, a total choke point. Like, obviously, an Engraver can be an extender, Emergency Teleport can be an extender, Terratop can be a great starter. That's it for this OCG metagame breakdown video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about the OCG format, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.